Alright, so today I want to show you the potential of the bamboo ball python. And the snake that I have around my neck right here, this is Bobby. He is my male bamboo. Really awesome snake. And I'd say there's a lot of advantages for the bamboo. First of all, there's no genetic anomalies, no head wobbles, no neurological issues, no kinking or duck-billing or anything that you see in a lot of other genes. And the other thing I like about the bamboo, as far as a standalone morph, it's probably one of the most impressive standalone morphs out there. Just a single gene bamboo in this snake. Really impressive just by itself. And when you mix it with some other genes, it can be really impressive. I say it has some limitations when you start mixing it with other genes. One of the big things is it's actually in the blue-eyed leucistic complex. So if you actually breed this with like lesser or Mojave, or you breed it to itself, you actually end up with an all-white snake with blue eyes. And what I want to do today is I want to jump over to the internet and show you what happens when you mix bamboo with some of these other genes and some of the amazing combinations you can get and some of the limitations you can see in the bamboo. Alright, so I'm going to jump over here on morphmarket.com, and believe it or not, this is actually a picture of Bobby. It's pretty amazing. His picture is still over here on Morphmarket. As a matter of fact, I sorted from the oldest ball python with the bamboo gene. He is the oldest one that has ever been posted over here on Morphmarket. And you know, bamboos used to be worth a lot of money back in the day. I was really lucky to get them. As a matter of fact, I had a bunch of females that I bought from someone who was getting out of ball pythons. I was looking for a ball python to actually breed to those females, and I picked out the most impressive bamboo that I've seen all on Morphmarket, and this is a picture of Bobby. This is just a straight bamboo, one copy of the gene, and I kind of want to just show you some of the combos when you start mixing it with other genes and some of the potentials, some of the limitations of the bamboo ball python. And what I want to start with is the Enchi. Enchi's probably the number one morph as far as numbers over on Morphmarket. There's been a lot of Enchis produced, and essentially what Enchi is it's a pattern reduction where it really reduces the pattern, pretty much wipes out all the alien heads, and a lot of times it'll bring out a lot of the yellow color in the snake too. Here's what happens when you mix Enchi with bamboo. You get a really awesome looking snake. Really reduces the pattern. It looks kind of interesting. As a matter of fact, if you actually take two copies of the Enchi gene, a super Enchi, and then layer on top the bamboo, this is actually what you get. This is a super Enchi bamboo. Pretty awesome. Pattern is reduced even more, and you can see a little bit more of the yellow color coming out of the snake. Pretty awesome combo. Here's the pastel ball python. I say the pastel is kind of one of the limitations when it comes to the bamboo. As a matter of fact, I produced some pastel bamboos, and the pastel just by itself, essentially what it is it brings out a lot of the yellow color of the snake, and sometimes it'll reduce the pattern just a little bit, and in some lines of pastel, you know, you have more or less yellow and more or less pattern reduction depending on the line of pastel. Here's what happens when you mix it with the bamboo. As a matter of fact, when I first produced my first pastel bamboos, I was like, I think I need some help actually identifying these because it was so close to the regular bamboo. And the only thing that really separates them when they're really young is the color on the head. It looks like the pastel just kind of fades out the head just a little bit. If you actually take a pastel bamboo and a non-pastel bamboo, just a straight bamboo without the pastel, put them side by side, you can tell one has a slightly lighter head with the pastel in the mix. And when they get a little bit older, I'd say they get about yearling, about a year or year and a half old, they start really popping that yellow color. Kind of starts getting brighter and brighter as the snake gets older. You can definitely tell, but I'd say when they're hatchlings, when they're really young, it's almost impossible to tell, besides the head color, that the pastel is actually in there. Here's another one. This is the lesser. I have quite a few lessers. I actually paired up my bamboo. I actually paired up Bobby with one of my lesser females. And the lesser is really awesome morph. Just by itself, it brings out a lot of the yellow color, has some really intense contrast in the snake. The lesser is also part of the blue-eyed leucistic complex. So when you breed the two together, this is what you get. You get a bamboo lesser. This one's actually listed as a bamboo butter. The butter is essentially just a different line of lesser, and it's pretty much an all white snake. So if you have like a super bamboo or a bamboo lesser or a bamboo Mojave, a bamboo Russo, anything in the blue-eyed leucistic, you end up with a white snake with blue eyes. And kind of the tough thing about this is it's almost like, as far as a breeder's standpoint, it's kind of a dead-end project, because if you layered on like Pastel and Pinstripe or some of these other genes into a blue-eyed leucistic, it's really almost impossible to tell that other genes are in the mix until you start breeding them out and proving it out to see that they're actually in there. So if you actually make a white snake, it's kind of the same with some of the dark morphs. If you have a super that's like a black snake and you try to add other genes to it, you don't really see the other genes. But I would say, as far as just a standalone morph, the blue-eyed leucistic, probably one of the most popular, highest demand snakes that everybody's looking for. As a matter of fact, when I'm selling at the reptile shows, everyone comes up and says, hey, can I hold the white snake with the blue eyes? They are really impressive combos. So here is the pied, and the pied's kind of interesting because I always wondered when the bamboo first came out, what happens when you mix the pied in with the bamboo. Now keep in mind, the pied is actually a recessive combination and the bamboo is codominant, so you have to actually have 2 copies of the pied gene to get a visual pied. And essentially what the pied is it's these splotches of white through the snake. Sometimes you can have a high white pied and sometimes you can have a low white. Sometimes it's kind of unpredictable. Sometimes you can actually force it to be a low white pied. Like if you put Enchi in the mix, all the Enchi pieds are always low white, which is kind of interesting. Here's what happens if you put bamboo in with a pied. You get an all white snake, and it's kind of interesting. This snake is a little bit different than some of the bamboo pieds that I've seen. The very first ones that I saw actually had kind of a grayed out head. I was kind of surprised to actually see this on here. An all white snake with no color on the head for the bamboo pied. Usually it's an all white snake with kind of a grayed out head. Here's another combo that's, I'd say, relatively new on the market. I always wondered what some of these looked like, and it just seems like in the last couple of years, a lot of people are really producing some amazing combos, and you never know what's going to happen when you mix some of these newer genes in with some of these combos. We're just finally proving out the bamboo as far as mixing it in with a lot of different stuff. This is a clown. The clown is, essentially what it is it's a pattern enhancer, and it brings out a little bit of the color, and usually with the clown, you always see these crazy patterns on the head. It's really, I'd say this is probably the king of combos when it comes to recessive mutations. Here's what happens when you mix the bamboo in with the clown. Take a look at this snake. This is one of the most amazing clown combos I've seen. As a matter of fact, I'm getting more and more into clowns. It seems like it works really well with a whole variety of different genes. Really impressive. As a matter of fact, this is kind of unexpected that it would actually turn this color and kind of wipe out the sides and kind of turn it into like a peach color. And you can definitely tell there's clown in there because it has this crazy head stamp, crazy pattern on the head. Here's another one. It's probably one of my favorite combos is the Ultramel bamboo. Ultramel is kind of, it's interesting. It's almost like a different line of albino because it's a recessive mutation, but it definitely has a different color than the albino. It almost looks like a coral glow. As a matter of fact, when the coral glow first came out, they thought it was a different line of Ultramel, but the difference between the two is Ultramel is recessive, coral glow is codominant. So there's definitely different genetics there. This is what happens when you mix the bamboo with the Ultramel. Take a look at this snake. This is one of the most impressive snakes that I've seen. Really wild color. Almost keeps the same pattern as the bamboo. It just really changes the color. And it's kind of interesting because I've never really seen any other gene that will take the bamboo, keep the pattern, and then just change the color. I'd say the Ultramel really excels when you mix it with bamboo. And speaking of banana / coral glow, it's the banana and coral glow are essentially the same thing. This is what it looks like when it's a hatchling. When they grow up, they kind of change almost like a two-tone yellow color. And this is gonna kind of blow you away. Take a look at this. This is the Bamboo Banana, and it almost looks exactly like the Bamboo Ultramel. So if we just kind of go back and forth between the two, this is the Bamboo Ultramel. This is the Bamboo Banana, really close together. I'd say this one's probably easier to make because you only need one copy of the banana gene versus 2 copies of the recessive Ultramel. Here's another one. I've actually mixed Pinstripe in with my Bamboo, and you get some really amazing combos. I really love the Pinstripe because it's a really solid gold snake. It's really interesting. Probably the best gold that you can get on any ball python is with the Pinstripe. Here's what happens when you mix Pinstripe in with Bamboo. And let me tell you, when I first produced these, they almost look like they're made of metal. It is so impressive to actually have one and hold one. Let me tell you, this picture does not do it justice. It almost has a sheen that looks like a polished metal when you're actually holding the snake. Really impressive combination. Here's another one, the Xanthic VPI, and this is kind of a newer one on the market. I haven't actually seen this until I started digging around today, looking for different bamboo combos. This is what happens when you mix the Xanthic with the Bamboo, and essentially what the Xanthic does is it strips out all the colors except the blacks and the whites and the grays, and I would say there's not a whole lot of difference between a regular Bamboo and a Xanthic Bamboo, just a little bit, because if you look at a regular Bamboo, I'd say most of the color is black and white and gray, and you have a little bit of color coming through, but I'd say there's not a whole lot of difference. It's kind of an interesting combination. Here's another one. This is the Spider. This one happens to be Het Clown. You really can't see the Het Clown. This is essentially just what a straight spider looks like. The Spider is kind of tricky because it almost looks like multiple genes in one snake. Almost looks like maybe it has Pastel and Antic and Calico, but it's actually just one dominant gene, the Spider gene. Really awesome morph. Probably one of the best standalone morphs is the Spider. This is what happens when you mix the Spider with the Bamboo. Take a look at this. This is probably one of my favorite combos. And let me tell you, if it wasn't for the problems with the Spider, I would be cranking out a lot of Spider Bamboos. Really awesome snake. And we can actually take this one step further. I actually added Antic and Spider together. In this particular snake, this is called a stinger bee when you add the Antic to the Spider. This is what happens when you add Antic, Spider, and Bamboo together. It reduces the pattern even more. It makes for a really amazing combo. Here is the Calico. The Calico is kind of interesting because essentially what it does is it brings up a lot of white on the sides of the snake, and different lines of Calico make more or less white coming up the sides. Sometimes you can see Calicos that have hardly any white at all, and sometimes the white comes all the way up to the ridge and really extremely changes the color and the pattern of the snake. This is what happens when you add Calico to the Bamboo. You get a really wild looking snake. As a matter of fact, I produced 2 of these last year, and I say they're probably my most impressive combos, the Bamboo Calico. I actually produced one that was a Bamboo Calico Pastel, and essentially what it looked like this with a lot of yellow. You can actually see a lot of the yellow coming out. It was a really impressive snake. I actually sold that one. Someone offered me a really high price for it, and I decided to sell it, and I figured I could just make another one because they're really awesome combos. Here's another one. This is the Albino, just a straight Albino. The Albino is a recessive mutation. You can always tell the Albino because it always has red eyes. So if you're wondering if you have Albino in the mix, you can definitely tell by the eyes. And essentially what it does is it strips all the color and just leaves like a yellow and white color on your snake. This is what happens when you add Bamboo to Albino. Take a look at this. As a matter of fact, I did not expect that the Albino and the Bamboo would look like this, that it would wipe out all the pattern of the snake. It almost looks like a champagne mix. It almost looks like an albino champagne. It's kind of an interesting combo. I did not expect the albino and the Bamboo to look like this. All right, so I have one more snake I want to show you. This is the champagne. Speaking of champagne, and usually what champagne does is a lot of times it wipes out all the pattern and just changes the color. So it's really hard to get pattern back into champagne when you're mixing it with a lot of different genes. And this is what happens when you mix champagne with the bamboo. This is really, I'd say this is probably one of my favorite champagne combos. It's really interesting that it almost has like different colors up the sides, almost has like a whitewashed side and then a little gray outlining the stripe down the top. Really interesting. And then the interesting thing about champagne, a lot of times you'll make different combos. It'll be different snakes of the same combos with champagnes. Sometimes you can get extremely different results. I think the champagne is really one of those polymorphic genes that sometimes it can be kind of unpredictable when you're mixing it with other genes. All right, so there you have it. That is the potential of the bamboo ball python. And I'm gonna leave you with some drone footage here at the end. I've been flying my drone around my property. It's getting to the point where I'm having a lot of fun with that drone, flying it around every day, showing you some of the footage at the end of my videos. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.